Hey, what's happening, all my duckies out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of DuckTales, the 2017 reboot. This time it's Season three's Episode 6, titled Astro Boy," which immediately should tell you what this is all about if you are at all familiar with the classic anime manga series created by Osamu Tezuka titled Astro Boy. And this episode is full of all kinds of Japanese references and Easter eggs, all in relation to the classic Astro Boy. Now, Astro Boy actually was created because Osamu Tezuka was actually inspired by a lot of the works of Disney, namely Carl Barks. So, Disney inspired anime, and anime inspired Disney. And it's a full circle. Inspiration can come from anywhere, even what inspired it originally. Never forget that. Let's jump into the episode as we see a meeting of the Junior Woodchucks, here helmed by Launchpad, of course. Unfortunately, because of Huey's nature, he doesn't really get along with a lot of the other kids, as shown by Bully Beagle, who is a Beagle brat, a Beagle Boy brat. Try saying that three times fast. But, he really just does not get along with normal kids because of his analytical mind. But he actually ends up having a bit of a friendship created by Boyd because of the fact that they're both very analytical in nature, with Huey not realizing that Boyd is in fact a robot. I guess Louis never filled him in. However, when Louis says something that triggers a memory for Boyd, this causes his heat vision to go on the fritz, causing massive damage to the forest. So, with some quartz glasses, very Cyclops-esque from the X-Men, you know, well, X-Men actually did have a pretty good run with the 90s cartoon over in Japan. They even got their own Japanese intro. If you ever get a chance, look up X-Men Japanese intro. It is so well animated. Japanese studio and everything. But with a little help from Frenton Crackshell Cabrera, they're able to keep his heat vision in check. However, we come to find out that Gyro Gearloose actually does have a history with Boyd, saying that that wasn't his original name. His original name was Tubio, very much like the original name of the inspiration for Astro Boy. Astro Boy was based off of a real boy named Tubio before he became Astro Boy. However, Gyro is convinced that Boyd is evil to the core. Something happened in the past that made him believe that Boyd is nothing more than a murderous machine. So he analyzes some of what's going on with Boyd and finds that there's something wrong with his core in relation to his memories, and that's causing all the malfunctions. But he doesn't have the equipment necessary to actually analyze Boyd. He would need to go back to Tokyo, where he was an apprentice, in order to find the laboratory of his mentor, Dr. Akita, in order to properly fix Boyd. He also tells Fenton to come along because they'll definitely need the help of Gizmo Duck just in case something should happen and Boyd go out of control. But Huey is unconvinced, feeling that he's being a little too harsh towards Boyd. But Gyro doesn't feel like he's being harsh enough. We don't get an opening, we just get the title of DuckTales in Japanese, which is actually pretty cool. But we arrive in Tokyo, where it's just Easter eggs abound, complete with Sailor Moon cosplayers and all that. I love the designs of a lot of the characters within Tokyo, too. So diverse, very cool. But we come to find out that Gyro has a little bit of an issue with the law, as Inspector Tezuka, name inspiration you should know by now. But she has a little look of Inspector Zenigata, very in reference to Lupin the Third, which you can actually see someone who looks like Lupin the Third in the background there. She's dressed like Inspector Zenigata, who eternally chases Lupin the Third all around the world as Lupin steals various different items. But a classic reference. Zenigata is very recognizable as an inspector. If you ever seen Teen Titans Trouble in Tokyo, there's that reference too. But Gyro is kind of on the outs with the police, as while he was able to be acquitted, his mentor, Dr. Akita, was actually is still on the run for the most part. And Inspector Tezuka doesn't much care for Gyro being in town and has a real hatred towards robots, and it's only thanks to Little Bulb doing some vandalism that they're able to escape before she catches on to what Boyd actually is. So they arrive at Dr. Akita's old lab, break in thanks to Gyro, or Gizmo, I should say, and they access Boyd's memories. We get to see what Boyd has been going through. That he's still living with Doofus Drake and his family, although keeping Doofus mostly in check, and has been trying to give Doofus hugs in order to, get him into a better frame of mind. We get to find out the day that Mark Beeks actually found Boyd. The original idea was that Boyd was created by Mark Beeks, but Mark Beeks is all about jailbreaking and hacking into stuff and making it his own. He has no real inventions of his own, which was very put on display during the infernal internship of Mark Beeks. So it's nice to kind of see that, kind of square that circle. Although why he ultimately looks just like Mark Beeks is kind of like, that raises a few questions. But Huey finds that, Boyd has had a rough life throughout the years, but Gyro isn't unconvinced, saying that ultimately Boyd is rotten to the core. So while Gyro goes in order to do a little fixing up on Little Bulb as, everything in Boyd kind of lows through. Um, Huey kind of questions if, isn't there some way to make it so that, Boyd is seen as a hero? Fenton actually comes up with the idea that maybe they should go out and fight crime with Boyd. That way he can be seen as a hero in the eyes of the public. However, we actually come to find out that Dr. Akita has been monitoring them this entire time, being alerted once they broke into his old laboratory. So, as we pick up with a robbery in progress, Fenton says this is a perfect opportunity to help Boyd become more heroic down to his core. So he suits up and goes after one of the robbers, while Boyd and Huey go after the other. And while, Gyro, I should, Gizmo, Gizmo, I keep mixing that up. Gizmo is able to take down one of the robbers, and while Boyd and Huey corner the other, ultimately Boyd ends up letting her go by mistake. And this mostly comes from the fact that Boyd didn't want to harm her in any way, showing that deep down he is not a violent soul whatsoever. However, as Gizmo goes after the other robber, something once again kind of triggers a malfunction in Boyd, and Huey thinks that maybe they should go back to the lab, although he finds he has no idea how to get back there. With Gyro finding out that they've left, basically, and gets very angry and gives chase. While Fenton ends up having a run in with Inspector Tezuka and questions why she has such a hatred for robots, and she explains that Boyd had actually previously destroyed most of Tokyo, and that's why she has such an issue with robots, especially ones created by Gyro gear loose. Meanwhile, Boyd suggests that maybe they should have a night on the town for the most part, explore, see the sights, and all that good stuff. So we get a nice montage with Boyd and Huey hanging out, having fun, and just being kids for the most part. With Huey even questioning why Boyd seems to be, if Boyd is even interested in anything that he has to say or interested in him as a person, which Boyd confirms, showing that Huey deep down has always had this issue where his brothers or people in general kind of dismiss him because of his nature. But it's the first time he's actually just kind of been seen as a friend, as just a kid, with someone who will actually listen to him and acknowledge what he has to say. So I like this. It really goes to show that Huey really deep down just needed a friend, someone to relate to. And, Huey reinforces that he thinks Boyd is good. They're having a good time. Nothing has happened. Nothing is deeply wrong with Boyd altogether. He's not a bad person. And when the picture that Huey took, flies away and he goes to grab it, he ends up falling off of the tower, only to be rescued by Boyd, who discovers that he has jet thrusters on his feet. So a nice little moment and more deep comparisons to Astro Boy. But this brings Boyd in range of Dr. Akita, who sets out to get Boyd back. When Huey and Boyd meet up with Fenton and Inspector Tezuka, Fenton kind of tells Huey that he shouldn't stick too close to Boyd, that Boyd is ultimately dangerous from what he's heard. But Huey once again says, "Look, I don't think that. He saved me. He helped me. He risked his self for me. I don't think he's that deeply dangerous." But Gyro feels that, there's still something deep down going on within Boyd, and is ultimately going to cause mass trouble and chaos. And Gyro feels that he ultimately will need to shut Boyd down completely. But Huey is unconvinced. Um, but in order to show both Huey and Boyd, you know, um, his deepest core memory, the very source of why Boyd is malfunctioning so much. He shows off the day that Boyd went rogue and just out of nowhere started attacking, despite Gyro's best efforts to instill compassion and goodness within Boyd. He still went rogue. Something is deeply wrong with him, right down to his core. But Huey still believes there is good within Boyd and tells Boyd to run. However, something takes control of Boyd, sending him flying off right into the hands of Dr. Akita, who says that he will use Boyd as an instrument of destruction to get his revenge on all of Tokyo, activating his revenge protocol and sending Boyd and Gyro into a really cool anime inspired battle, like something akin to Dragon Ball Z and various mech battles and all that. And Gyro is still trying to tell Huey that Boyd needs to be destroyed. His deepest core memories show that at the core of his being, it's all bad. But Huey notices that there's one more file that Gyro overlooked, something deeper within Boyd's memories, and that's of when Fenton tried to instill in Boyd goodness, just being a good boy, being a real boy, niceness, goodness, righteousness, and Gyro has this, very classic look, his original appearance, although not without the red hair that he originally had. But ultimately, Boyd's core memories is of him being good. However, Dr. Akita was completely against this, feeling that Boyd is a weapon, and he has no need for being good or right or nice. I also love Dr. Akita's voice because it's Shang Tsung from the Mortal Kombat movies back in the day. But we see that Akita completely overrid over all of Gyro's good programming to keep Boyd aid in the position of being a weapon, of being a mad robot, and engaging a world breaker protocol which actually caused all of the destruction. You know, Dr. Akita wanted a weapon, and Gyro wanted someone nice, someone good. This brings Gyro and Dr. Akita to blows over a difference in ideology. You know, a lot of what Gyro has been going through has all been because he believed that the first thing he ever worked on turned evil. But ultimately, it was never his fault. He did the right thing. It was because of outside influence that the first project he ever worked on went rogue. So, as the battle against Boyd continues on, Little Bulb is able to take down Dr. Akita, only for him to be arrested by Inspector, Tezuka, and Gyro is able to get through to Boyd, giving him a hug and telling him that he is a real boy, the best boy. And with, Boyd ultimately choosing the good program in the end, overriding all of Dr. Akita's negative influences, he decides that, he will continue to be called Boyd, but for a different reason. Choosing to have the acronym for his name be only yourself, dude. So he's choosing his own path, choosing what he feels that he wants to be in the end because of the positive influences in his life. And we also have a moment where, Gyro says that ultimately he went down the wrong path because his mentor didn't try to help him and bring him up and make him something better. And he doesn't want to go down that path with Fenton. So, Fenton will no longer be an intern, he will be a full partner at Gyro's lab. However, with these touching moments, ultimately Inspector Tezuka feels that all of them should leave before anything else happens to Tokyo, and they all set out, living better and more fulfilling lives. I really enjoyed this episode. Very nice, very sweet, tons of references, but it was nice to just kind of get an answer as to how Mark Beeks could even make something that advanced like Boyd. The answer is he couldn't. He's ultimately a hack and he needs to just go away. Go away, Mark Beeks. You're terrible. But, I'm glad that Huey has gained this great friendship with Boyd. It's a very nice, interesting relationship they got going on there and very Huey. And I'm glad that Gyro and Fenton's relationship has actually grown from him seeing what it could be like if you just continue to put down the people who work under you. That positive reinforcement is the way to go in the end. That will never steer you wrong, and the best will always come from stuff like that. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you love the battles? How many references did you notice? Did you learn something new? Or did you know everything already going in here? And how did you feel about Boyd in general? Very Astro Boy inspired, very fun, very interesting, at least to me. But what about you? Tell me in the comment section below. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another DuckTales reboot episode review. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.